Wild Soul Hopecast, Episode 12, Part 2. Return to yourself, taming the ego, living in hope, and remembering unconditional love. Sponsored by When the Soul Remembers Hope and the Hope Method. Hello, Lovey. Welcome back. If you're just joining me, this is Part 2 of Episode 12, so I gently invite you to go back, listen to Part 1 first, because what you're stepping into now isn't a new conversation. It's the integration of everything we just opened. So before we go any further, just take a breath with me. Inhale slowly and exhale gently. Again, inhale and exhale. Let your shoulders drop. Let your body soften. Let yourself arrive here fully. Because this is where we bring it home. In Part 1, we explored what it means to recognize the patterns. We talked about where we override, where we shrink, where we say yes when our soul is whispering no. And none of that was meant to create judgment. It was meant to create awareness, because awareness is where hope begins. So know that in this space, that is where we're not analyzing anymore. We're integrating. We're asking, what does it look like in my real life? How do I actually live this without abandoning myself or others? How do I stay open without losing my center? This is where the Hope Method comes in, not as a concept, but as a practice. Not something you think about, but something you become. So let's walk it together, because integration isn't about getting it perfect. It's about choosing differently one moment at a time. It's about noticing, pausing, and responding instead of reacting, and about learning how to hold yourself the same way you've been holding everyone else. So wherever you are right now, whether something landed deeply in Part 1, or maybe something stirred, or even felt uncomfortable, you're exactly where you're supposed to be. Nothing to fix, nothing to force, just something to work with. So let's begin. Let's bring this back into your body, your choices, your life. Let's integrate this through hope. Hope stands for harness optimal positive energy. And when you apply that to the ego, the nervous system, and the inner loops we are talking about today, it becomes incredibly practical. H, harness. Harness means awareness first, not reaction, not suppression, not shame. Pure awareness. It means you notice what is happening in you without immediately becoming it. You notice, my mind is replaying. My body is tense. My chest is tight. My thoughts are catastrophic. My ego is trying to control the story. My nervous system is bracing for impact. That alone changes something, because what is unconscious runs the show. But what is witnessed begins to loosen. Harness says, I see what is happening. Oh, optimal. Optimal asks, what truly serves me here? Not what is automatic, not what is even familiar, not even what wins applause, not what keeps everybody else super comfortable, but what is optimal for you. And sometimes the optimal response is not an impressive one. No, sometimes it is pause, drink water, go for a walk, say no, delay the reply, stop explaining, rest, cry, breathe, put your hand on your heart. Tell the truth, do less. Choose the thing that stabilizes you instead of the thing that proves you. Optimal is often quieter than the ego likes, but it is so much wiser. P, positive. Positive in the hope method does not mean pretending. It does not mean forcing silver linings. It does not mean making pain pretty. It does not mean bypassing your grief. It means choosing the most life-giving perspective available without abandoning your truth. Instead of, this is proof I'm failing, maybe we say, this is information. Instead of thinking, I'm back at the beginning, maybe we reframe it as, I am being given a chance to respond differently. Or perhaps instead of thinking, this feeling means I'm broken for good and forever, maybe we reframe it and we say, this feeling is a signal. Or my favorite, instead of feeling like I need to be perfect, maybe what I really need is to just be honest. That is positive alignment. Positive as integrity. Positive as truth with breath still in it. E, energy. Energy is where it all lands, perfectly imperfect. Because if your body is dysregulated, your mind will often follow. This is why regulation matters. Breath, grounding, journaling, rest, movement, somatic awareness, hand on heart. Name what is true. Slow the system down enough to come back online. Energy will tell us, I do not just think my way through life. I inhabit it. And when those four pieces work together, hope becomes more than just an idea. It becomes a method of return. It becomes self-unconditional love. So, now that I'm on that soapbox, let's do something together right now. If you're somewhere you can do this safely, I want you to place one hand over your stomach, right over that center where so many of us feel fear, control, knots, butterflies, anticipation, pressure, and place your other hand on your heart. Now take a slow, deep breath in through the nose and let it out gently through your mouth. Again, slow inhale, long exhale. And as you breathe, just notice. Notice the stomach. Is it tight? Is it hard? Is it fluttering? Is it guarded? Is it holding? Notice the heart. Is it heavy, tender, closed, achy, softening? Just keep breathing. Nothing to fix, nothing to force. Just notice. Now quietly, either out loud or in your mind, say this. We are safe enough for this moment. I know you're scared. I know you're worried. I know you're anxious. I know you're trying to protect us. But this is not failure. This is information. This is the pivot. I do not need to control everything to be okay. Got you. Again, slow inhale, long exhale. Feel the hand on your stomach. Sometimes, if you stay with the breath long enough, you can actually feel that area begin to soften. The body releases a little, the signal of danger lowers a little, the grip loosens a little, and then notice the heart again. Notice if there is warmth or emotion or a deeper exhale or tenderness or even tears. That is not weakness. That is the body remembering safety. That is the ego relaxing its hold just enough for the heart to speak. And maybe that's all regulation is sometimes. Not becoming perfectly peaceful, just becoming present enough to stop abandoning yourself in the moment. Do I need to say that again for you? You are peacefully perfect because you're becoming present enough to stop abandoning yourself in the moment. And I want you to take one more breath and let that be enough. And use that technique anytime you need a time out from yourself. This season has brought me back in again to the same Trinity: acceptance, forgiveness, and unconditional love. I keep finding that everything meaningful in healing seems to pass through these three gates. Acceptance says, this is what is here, not because you like it, not because you approve of it, not because you're resigning yourself to it, but because truth is the beginning of peace. If you cannot accept what is here, you cannot meet it honestly. You will spend all your energy arguing with reality while your nervous system gets more and more exhausted. Acceptance is not passive. It is the courage, the raw courage to stop lying to yourself. It is saying, this is what I feel, darn it. This is what happened. This is what hurts me. This is what I need to feel good. This is what I cannot keep carrying all by myself. This is what my body is telling me I need. This is what my soul already knows. Profound, isn't it? Forgiveness is so often misunderstood. People hear the word forgiveness and think it means excusing harm, erasing the truth, or pretending nothing ever happened. That is not what I mean when I say forgiveness. Forgiveness is profound release. It is loosening the grip of what has already happened so it does not continue governing your present or your future. It is not saying it was okay. It is saying I will not keep handing my life force to this pain anymore. Certainly not forever. Sometimes forgiveness is for another person. Sometimes it is for yourself. And sometimes it is for the version of you that only knew how to survive the only way that you could survive. Sometimes forgiveness sounds like, I understand why I became this, and I no longer need to punish myself for it. That one gets me every time. Unconditional love. It is not self-abandonment. It is not overgiving. It is not tolerating abuse. It is not martyrdom. It is not saying yes when your body is screaming no. Unconditional love says, I can hold myself through truth. I can stay with myself in discomfort. I can honor my limits and still be loving. I can be kind without betraying myself. I can choose tenderness without surrendering my discernment. That is powerful love. That is not sentimental love. That is sovereignty. And when acceptance, forgiveness, and unconditional love come together, something in the system changes. The ego does not have to grip so hard. The body does not have to brace so stinking hard. The heart does not have to hide from itself anymore. You become a safer place for yourself. And that changes everything. I wanted to touch on nostalgia just a little because nostalgia is such a strange emotion. It is joy and grief at the same time. It is warmth and ache. It is smile and sadness. It is sweetness with tears tucked into the edges. And I think that is why it matters so much in healing, because nostalgia often carries us back to the self we were before so much performance was required. When I think about the little cartoon, The Land Before Time, I don't just think about little dinosaurs. I think about being small. I think about my kids being small. I think about sitting on the floor with them and eating Cheetos out of big bowls, with the whole carpet being full of all the blankets and pillows of the house. I think about wonder and laughter and loyalty and friendship. I think about that love that leaves a mark. I think about the feeling of being moved by something before you knew how to intellectualize it. And yes, there is ache in that too, because childhood changes, because innocence gets interrupted, because life gets complicated, grief enters, performance appears, survival takes over, and the world starts telling you who you need to be. But nostalgia is not weakness, it's beautiful memory. And longing is not always lack. Sometimes longing is recognition of what matters, of what felt true, of the fact that your heart still knows the shape of belonging, even if your life is taking you far from it. When we feel nostalgia, we're not always asking to go backward. Sometimes we're remembering purity, not perfection, just purity. The purity of friendships and of wonder, of joy that did not need explanation, of love of something without embarrassment, of feeling deeply before the world taught you to edit yourself. And that really matters, because a lot of healing is not about inventing a better self. It's about recovering contact with the self you left behind in order to survive. So, when my children gave me that necklace that commemorated the land before time, it did something deeper than make me smile. It made time collapse. It reminded me of the child within me, the mother that I was to my children, the mother that I needed when I was a child, the tenderness in me, the continuity in me. It felt like love looping back around. It felt like memory becoming a gift. It felt like I see you, I see what shaped you. I see your softness. I see your story. I see the part of you that still remembers. And that is so sacred. There is something so holy about being seen in a way that honors your inner child without reducing you to it. There is something so healing about your children handing you something from their hearts to yours. That's not small, that's legacy. That is tenderness. That is unconditional love embodied. And this is where I think the land before time carries such a beautiful metaphor. The great valley, a place of safety, of belonging, of abundance, where you can rest, where you can stop wandering. And maybe that is why it still resonates. Because every human being is looking for some version of the Great Valley, a place inside themselves where they do not have to perform, a place where the nervous system can breathe, where belonging is not conditional, where their worth is not being measured, where their joy does not need to be justified, where the heart can say, I am finally home. And that is what this work really is. Return. Not to childhood, not to naivete, not to denial even, but to inner home, to the part of you that still knows what is true, to the part of you that still knows how to feel, to the part of you that still knows wonder, to the part of you that still knows love leaves marks that survive time. The Great Valley is not a place on a map. It is a state of being. Safety, belonging, love, inner coherence, self-trust, home in your own body. And if you have been feeling far from that, I just want to say gently, you didn't lose it. You disconnected from it. And disconnection can be healed and reconnected. This is also why Wish to Heal matters so much. Not as a perfect routine, not as another thing to master, but as a rhythm, a daily return to yourself. Wisdom, serenity, heart, healing, expression, acceptance, and love. What I love about this rhythm is that it meets the whole person, not just the mind, not just the image, not just the productive side, the whole entire person. Wisdom reminds you to connect, to clear the fog, to remember who you are. Serenity reminds you to slow down enough to actually see. Heart asks you to feel what is true instead of outrunning it. Healing asks you to take ownership without letting your pain define you. Expression asks you to speak, exhale, release, create. Tell the truth. Acceptance asks you to soften your resistance and come back into belonging. Love roots the whole darn thing into wholeness. Tiny practices matter. A hand over your heart, a line in a journal, a breath before a reaction, a quiet walk, a whispered truth, a moment of grounding, a pause before you reach for external validation. These moments look small, but repeated over time, they create a new baseline. That is how survival slowly becomes sovereignty. Not all at once, but rhythm by rhythm, choice by choice, return by return. So before we close, I want to leave you with a few questions, not to rush through, not to answer for performance, just to feel. And this list is quite extensive, so feel free to come back to it. But or pick one or two and answer them honestly. What story is my ego repeating right now? What is it trying to protect me from? Where have I already grown beyond the version of me that first learned that fear? What does safety feel like in my body? Where have I outsourced my worth to external validation? What truth have I been avoiding because I was waiting for permission to know it? What part of me still remembers joy? What did I love before the world told me who to be? What memory still makes me smile instantly? Where can I return to myself today? Just let one of those questions stay with you. You do not need to answer them all. You just need to let one honest answer begin. So, if this episode is landing somewhere deep in you, this is what I want you to do. Pause before you move on to the next thing. Before you scroll, before you work, before you perform, before you explain, before you go back into managing life for everyone else, I want you to pause for just a minute. Put your hand over your heart. Take one honest breath and ask yourself, where have I been leaving myself? And what would it look like to come back? That is the practice, not perfection, just return. And if this episode spoke to you, share it with someone who needs that reminder too. Share it with the person who is overthinking. Share it with the person who is exhausted from carrying too much. Share it with the person who looks fine on the outside, but is living with too much chaos on the inside. Share it with the person who needs permission to stop performing healing and start embodying it. And if you want to go deeper into this work, start with my books, When the Soul Remembers Hope and The Hope Method. Because this work is not just inspiration, it's practice. It is remembrance, it's regulation, it is return. And before I go, I want to tell you a little bit about what is coming next. Season 2 is probably going to look a little different, a little shorter, a little more rhythmic, a little more bite-sized, a little more like a steady return you can actually carry into your real life. Right now, I'm feeling into calling it 15 minutes of hope. Short episodes, simple truths, practical grounding, a little pause in the middle of real life. Maybe even twice a week, a gentle rhythm. You can return on purpose, something you can listen to on Sunday or in the middle of the week when life starts getting loud again. Something that says, come back, take a break, take a breath. Remember who the heck you are. So stay with me for that. Because this is not the end. It is just the next way we keep walking each other home. And as we close out season 1 and 12 outstanding episodes, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for being here. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reflecting. Thank you for letting these episodes meet you where you are. Thank you for walking this path with me. This season has been about so much: burnout, belonging, boundaries, grief, energy, identity, love, nervous system truth, the quiet ache beneath performance, the slow, sacred work of coming back to yourself. And if there is one thing that I hope you carry with you from this season, it is this: you did not lose yourself. You simply adapted. You perfectly protected. You survived. And underneath all of that, you're still there, still soft, still wise, still loving, still whole. Hope is not something you find once and keep forever. It is something you return to again and again, breath by breath, choice by choice, moment by moment. And that love you remember, that safety you once felt, that tenderness that still brings tears to your eyes, that wonder that still lives in memory, that was not foolishness, that was truth. And truth has a way of waiting for us. The Great Valley was never just a place. It was belonging. It was loyalty. It was enduring love. It was home. And home is not gone, because home is what you keep learning how to carry within you. Sometimes all you have left is hope. And sometimes hope is enough. Talk soon.